Hey gang, how we going? Brad Shepherd here from Create PT Wealth. Now last week I was having a conversation with a new potential client for our coaching program at Create PT Wealth, and the topic of the $400 PT session popped up, or the $440 PT session, and the young lady who I was speaking to at the time, like she hadn't really heard much about Create PT Wealth. She hadn't heard much about myself or my experience of building up peak physique and building up my own charge out fee to $400. And, you know, it was really fascinating, I guess, to see, and interesting to see the look on her face and I guess the expression, and, you know, what she indicated to me straight up was just like, you know, first of all, she just saw it as, you know, unfathomable that someone would actually pay that, and her next response was, I would never pay that myself, and how could I possibly even ask someone to pay that amount of money for a one-on-one PT session? And so it's popped up a lot, and so I think it's worthwhile speaking a little bit about the $400 PT session. So today's video is not about how you can charge $400 for a single PT session. I'm sure that if we worked with each and every one of you one-on-one, we'd find a strategy or find a solution for you to be able to earn more for each and every session that you do. Now, to give you the very short story, there's a couple of reasons why the fee arrived at that. One of the main reasons was, you know, getting myself to a point where I was incredibly busy. I was doing huge amounts of sessions, and I hadn't, you know, really maximised the amount of income that I was earning per session. So the obvious next step is to have a rate increase. And what I noticed is that each and every time I had that rate increase, clients happily paid that fee, and so there was no resistance to the amount of fee that they were paying. And I remember this happening, you know, it kicked off at about the $50 mark, and then it went up to the $70 mark, and then it went up to the $80 mark and $90 mark, and it kept happening. Now, whilst that part was happening, that phase was happening at the same time, what happened was I was building a team of trainers. So I was building the business, and the part of the strategy behind that is to, you know, me as the business owner, is to remove myself from some of the day-to-day or hands-on work, so that I wasn't spending 40 sessions a week in the gym training clients, and I was effectively moved myself into the phase of working on the business. And at that point in time, you know, my focus was around acquiring more clients into the business and doing more lead generation and marketing, and getting more trainers hired so that we could service those clients as well. So if I'm doing 40 sessions a week in the gym, then that's going to be really challenging time-wise to be able to do all the other stuff that was required to build that business up successfully. And we built that up to doing over 200 hours per week of PT sessions. That's 45-minute sessions with a team of 13 trainers. So you can see how those two things were going hand in hand. As I was, you know, increasing my charge out fee, at the same time I was building my business. And again, those two things were creeping up at the same time. So the goal was to reduce the number of hands-on hours that I was doing. Now, whilst all this was happening, I was constantly technically upskilling myself. So I was really improving the service that I was delivering to people, and also the way in which I played an impact on people's lives. And so, you know, if you've ever had someone turn around to you and say the words, "You've changed my life," it can be a pretty amazing thing to be a part of, and quite a privilege. What I realised is that, you know, for some people, just turning up in the physical aspect of trading was not the only reason they were coming. It was because of those, I guess you might call them, you know, life type changes, mental shifts, mindset shifts, etc., that came from, you know, me being able to influence that person and their behaviour in every aspect of their life. And the comments that I'd get back is that these qualities that they're receiving, sure, they come for the training side of it. However, these qualities are transferable to every other element of their life and every other aspect of their life. So as these rates were increasing and going up, I hit this point at about $100 a session. I remember at that point in time, again, I had a huge number of clients still going on. You know, I'm at the goal at that point in time at the $100 per session was to try and do around about 20 sessions a week. Because at that point in time, that was my personal KPI for the personal training business a number of years ago, was for me to generate $2,000 a week of revenue into the business. And what I noticed is that, again, that fee didn't seem to be any resistance to people not wanting to take it up and to train with me. And I guess I remember back at that time, this is going back now in roughly 2002, 2003. So we're, a good, almost 15 years ago. I remember thinking back at that time, what do I need to charge some of these people to try and get less of them to train with me? Now, don't get me wrong, I loved training my clients. I loved being in the gym. And if you're ever able to see that part of it, then you would see the type of training that we're doing, the quality of results we were getting for people. But at the same time, realised heavily that if I'm in the gym training clients, what am I not doing? Well, I'm not working on the business. I'm not building the business and implementing the steps that are going to make this business more successful and give it the longevity. Could I charge $100 a session, do 40 sessions a week? Yeah, absolutely. But I realised that wasn't the best use of my time and energy. So I'm charging $100 a session. I'm still doing 20, 30 sessions a week, thinking that I've got to get this number down. And what's the obvious next step for me to do that? And the solution that I came up with was to double my fees. And I knew that by doubling my fees, it meant that I could train half as many sessions, but still bring in that same amount of revenue. Now, for me, the increase in fee didn't just, it wasn't just, okay, gee, today I think I'm just going to go out there and charge a shitload more. No, it was about going, well, do I feel like, number one, that I'm valued at that much in terms of the amount that I can happily receive for the service that I give? Do I feel like the person on the other end is getting that amount of value in terms of investing in the session? Do I feel like I'm worth it? Do I feel like I've evolved and invested time in professional development, i.e. becoming better trained as a trainer and better skilled in personal development, so overcoming self-sabotaging beliefs and roadblocks that I could then assist with others, and of course becoming better in this area of business as well. And those three things were the combination and the factor for me to know that, yeah, look, hey, it's time to do that. And at about that time was when I had some real big mindset shifts, because I was investing heavily in terms of business coaches, in terms of coaching, in terms of support, in terms of my own personal development. And what I realized was a couple of things. Number one is that at that point in time, I stopped making decisions for other people, stopped thinking for other people. And so what I noticed is that, in the past, that I would have possibly not increased the rate or possibly not done something given the response that I might have from the other person. They might not agree with it. They might try and do less sessions, think I'm money hungry, greedy, any of this sort of stuff that can pop up. And so what I was noticing is those thoughts were happening in my mind. And when I realized that it's time to park those thoughts on the side, do they happen? Yeah, absolutely. But can I identify with them and goes, hey, that it's not reality. It's just the thought that's happening inside my head at the moment. Can I acknowledge that and go, hey, yeah, that's fair enough. And it might be a possibility. However, really, what's more important is for me to pursue the goals and targets that I have in place for this business. And also, what does that mean for me in terms of my own growth and my own development? Because the guy who was training people at $50 had to evolve for the person who stepped up doing it at $70, and for the person who was doing it at $100, and the person who was doing it at $200. And then that jump from $200 to $400, it happened a couple of years later, and really, again, I just hit a point where at $200 a session, the goal was to be doing around about 10 sessions per week. So I stuck it around about that KPI of bringing about $2,000 a week of revenue to the business. I had all my other traders doing the lion's share of the session. So out of 200 hours of appointments per week, I was doing a very small portion of those sessions, roughly about 7.5 to 10 hours or so of it. So less than 10%. And so at that point in time, what I remembered very clearly is that I looked around and, without really sort of being mindful of it, is that suddenly I'm doing, 15, 16, 17 sessions a week. And what that meant for me was, hey, there was more revenue coming in, which was, it's a good problem to have. But what it meant for me is I'd noticed it had just started to move me away from the part where I needed to be working on the business. Because at that point in time, I did have a large team of personal trainers. I had 13 personal trainers. And with that came a lot of training, a lot of development, a lot of management of that team and those people. And so at 200 hours worth of appointments, so 45-minute sessions, you can see that it meant for me, it was like, well, hey mate, if you're going to be in the gym every day training clients, I had to realize it's probably not the best use of my time. And so that was the no-brainer decision for me to go, okay, well, it's time now to increase those rates again and go from $200 to $400 a session. And, when I think back to the types of clients that have invested that figure at $400, again, I had to remove myself from, making decisions for other people. I go, some will, some won't. And it's really not going to change my life if they do or they don't. I know I'm doing a great job, and I know I can deliver a great service for those people and give them an extraordinary amount of value. And, and I realised that, hey, it's not going to be for everybody. Hence the reason why we had a great team of trainers in place who could look after people at different price points. So when I hit that $440 for a session, our options for people to do one-on-one 45-minute personal training sessions with us went $440, $165, $135, $110, $99, $88, and $77 per session. So we had a large offering. We had different price points. We had trainers at different levels and different skill sets, and those trainers then had the ability to climb that ladder and move up that ladder and get paid more for the sessions that they did as well. So, for anyone out there, and I guess takes me back to the start of today's conversation, is about, if you hear that something like that, and it doesn't have to be a $400 session, it could be something running a boot camp, doing a number of sessions or whatever it happens, and there could be that little voice inside the head that's going, I just can't imagine how that's even possible or how it can be done. I guess my advice to everybody is, first of all, just go, well, should I change the question and say, well, how did that person do that, and what was the strategy or the system behind it? What it also means for you is that the opportunities are endless for you in terms of what you can do for your business. And so what I often find is that my workshops and seminars is that, like I said on the video today, I'm not there to show you or each person there how to get your rates to $400 a session. Again, it's not my business what you charge, nor is it going to change my life. What I am passionate about is seeing people be able to get that, achieve that breakthrough and be able to get what it is they desire. So if you're currently charging $60 a session, and you moving to $80 a session is a large achievement, and it's something that you really desire and believe that you're worth, that's the bit where we come into play to assist you and help you to be able to do that. From there, if $80 becomes $90, and the people who come through our program get to experience this on a weekly basis, literally. And so, when they hit that $100 a session or that $110 a session, they just get more evidence that, hey, this thing works, the system works, number one. Number two, get more evidence that I'm worth it and I'm doing a great job for people. Get more evidence to show that, hey, there is so much abundance out there, so much opportunity for me to be able to engineer this in the fitness business. The other part, of course, is when you start moving into growing the business, i.e. it's not totally reliant upon you and your time and your energy. It does mean that you really do need to put a price on your time, because, again, if you're on the gym floor training people or outdoors or whatever it is that you're doing, you need to be mindful of what you're not doing when you're in there on that gym floor doing those physical training sessions. Now, you might love it. It might be one of the most exciting parts of your day. However, you need to put a price on that and figure out that, all right, well, if I'm going to be in there training people, that is going to come at an economic cost, and we need to produce this type of revenue for this business to hit whatever goals, targets that we're shooting for. And so you really do need to consider that component of it. Outside of that, the other parts to the technical side is programming, giving advice, nutritional, any of the other stuff that you supply to people that you might not be getting paid for needs to be factored into this as well. So any of you out there who are, maybe looking for a bit of guidance, a little bit of feedback on how you might be able to take yourself from where you currently are and just take yourself to that next level. We're making an opportunity available for people during the month of October for you to be able to just take that first step and just to find out a little bit more about what we do here at Create PT Wealth and how we might be able to give you a little bit of assistance. And so we're going to make the invitation for you just to take the first step. And the first step is just simply for us to be able to communicate with you and offer you a bit of information about what we can do. Hear from you first as to what your current business model is and what that looks like. And then secondly, if we feel like we might be able to provide you with some guidance or some help or how we could assist you in getting to where it is you want to get to. So if that's for you, then somewhere below this video, I'm going to make sure I invite you to just write in the word yes. And the word yes is going to mean that we're going to be able to start that conversation. And just for you, if you feel like you want to kick the tires and find out a bit more about what Create PT Wealth's about and how we can assist you and what type of services we might have on offer, then we can start that conversation. So I certainly look forward to it. There you go. Over to you. You've heard a bit about my story. It's a very small portion of the $400 per session story. Actually, before we take off, let me tell you about a couple of $400 paying clients. Using this strategy I spoke about before, the idea about like not thinking for other people, making decisions for other people. So had a gentleman referred to be my physiotherapist colleague here in Brisbane, Michael Ridgway. He's one of Australia's leading physiotherapists. He referred me to this guy. He said, can you get this guy moving? Because if you don't, this guy could die an early death. He's in pretty poor health, pretty poor shape. When I met this gentleman, he was 53 years old. He certainly didn't look 53. He looked like he was about 73. He was overweight. He'd led an adult life of, lunching, boozing, and treating his body like a theme park. And when this gentleman came to me, he was in poor shape because he hadn't exercised as an adult, and he was going to the physio because he had chronic back pain. Anyway, this guy had done well in business, so he'd been successful in that part of his life, but just the health and well-being side, he hadn't really got a handle on that, hadn't got that bit sorted, which is not uncommon. So anyway, I sit down with this gentleman. We go through a whole process and procedure following our fitness sales system. And as I was sitting down with this gentleman, at that point in time, I probably wasn't sitting there going, this guy's going to be my perfect $400 per session paying client. And again, that whole mantra of going, you can't think for other people or make decisions for other people. I was just thinking, I was seriously thinking this guy just needs to get moving. We get this guy walking around the block and some plastic coated dumbbells is probably a good start at this stage. But anyway, we flip over the page and I present him some various options, and he looked at the different price points. And like I said, 440, 165, 135, 110, 99, 88, 77. He hit the top of the page. He goes, I'm going to train with you. He said, because you're obviously the best. And he said, if you weren't the best, you wouldn't charge that much. And he goes, $165 a session, mate, there's a chance I might not turn up. But he goes, at $400, buddy, I'm definitely coming. And he booked in 3 sessions per week doing that. Now, you can do the maths on it, $400 a session, 3 times a week. It's $1,200 a week thereabouts. Now, do you think that $1,200 a week was a large or a small portion of his disposable income? Well, if you said small, then the answer is correct. He had a large disposable income. Did I say, I can't remember if I just said that right or wrong, but the amount of money, that $1,200 a week for him, was a small portion of his disposable income. I think I did say it right. But for him, more importantly, it was about the fact that he was in enough pain or discomfort. He recognised the need for help and support. He saw enough value in it. And also for him, making an investment of $1,200 a week was significant enough to get him off his ass and get him actually physically doing something. And he continued on that regime or that strategy for well over 12 months, to the point where he then moved and he was with me once a week and with my other team members for several times a week. So just gives you an idea on what sort of people are out there. And again, I made sure that many years ago I stopped trying to think for others, make decisions for others. And so my biggest takeaway for you, if none other from anything today, is just to really embrace that mantra and, write this down. I've got no right to make decisions for other people. I've got no right to decide what someone will or won't pay for my service. And I've got no right to think for other people. there you go, over to you. I hope that's given you a little bit of insight into it, and also maybe a little bit of what's the word? Hopefully, I've teased you with the idea of you, exploring this for yourself and how you might be able to make this a success. So there you go. Go out there, have a crack at it, and remember to write yes below if you want to hear from us in this program. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.